Dr. Cutter with the Chainsaw Hospital, and today we're going to be working on this Stihl chainsaw that's in this case. Now, this saw here was donated to the Chainsaw Hospital, and a very, very kind person did that. So I want to take a second to thank them for doing that. And if you guys could comment down below and just say thank you, and that person will know how much we appreciate what they did. So, what's in this box? This is how it came. This is what it is. And you can see it's not a super big saw, but it is kind of a nice little handy box to carry around with you. So let's go ahead and open this up. This is a Stihl case. It just says Stihl chainsaws on here. And so what is in here? All right, here we go. It's like a little casket, isn't it? So this saw here is a Stihl 011 AV. So it's a 011 AV. They might call it like you would call it an 029 or 038. So we'll just call this one the 011. And this one's name is Sellick. So Sellick here came in. Sellick runs. Sellick it runs a little bit. It does run, but there's something just not right about it. So the gentleman that donated the saw to the hospital said it runs. I had it running not too long ago, but just something's not right, and he has absolutely zero use for it. And he thought it would be a better uh, teaching case for the hospital for us to get it on the operating table here on Trouble One, and we can all get in here and try to learn a little something. So what we've got is that these came in a top handle version, so there was a you could get it with a version with the top handle right here, or this is the rear handle version, so the handle is further back, so you'd operate it in this fashion here, like this. And I've done a little. I've never seen one of these before. This is the first one that I've ever seen, and some of you got like, oh, I probably have three or four of them, and that's awesome. If you know some crazy weird stuff or just neat stuff, information about these, let me know something about it down in the comments. That would be great. Or if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave an email, and my email is right here. So be sure to check that out. So, what do we have here? We've got a bar on here that appears to be, I don't know, 14, 16 inches or something like that. We can measure it real quick. I think I've got a tape line. Let's see. I would say it's a 16 because it's like 15 and a half or something like that. So 16, close enough. It's definitely not a 14, definitely not an 18. So, we've got that. It's got this safety bumper chain on, which we'll get in here a little closer and check that out. But yeah, so I can already see there's gas in here. It looks like Sellick is primed and ready to go. But Sellick is also missing this top cover for the air filter and air filter for that matter. So we might have to perform the Sellick maneuver for intubation on Sellick the chainsaw here. That would be funny, wouldn't it? So, either way, let's get this outside, and what we'll do is start it up and see if we can determine what's going on with this. The fuel line is intact, and like I said, uh, the donator, the benefactor to the hospital, had mentioned that uh, he did have it running, so it's not a mystery whether it will or not. So, but either way, let me wipe my hands off here real quick. So either way, let's go outside and we'll get this thing fired up. All right, we've got Sellick here, and we've got some gas in there. And I did notice here, I don't know if you guys saw that, but the vent that's located right there, the tank vent is completely missing. So we'll have to make a new one of those too. So it's no problem. But what I do have is no choke. What I don't have is no choke. But I do have a cover on the way and a filter. So we'll be able to clean this up. But what I'm going to do, since I don't have a choke, I've got my little squirt bottle here. and there'll be some links down in the description. So what I'm gonna do is just put a little gas right there in the intake, just a little squirt, not a whole lot. We just want to get a little bit in there to prime it up, and we can squeeze the trigger, and that'll go right up against the reeds that are in here. So let's see if we get this thing to pop off and start. And because, like I said, we've got gas in here, and I just want to see what's going on. How is it running? Is it running okay? Is it easy to start? How many pulls does it take? Those kinds of things, because that might lead us in a direction one way or the other, and that'll check the recoil too. Like I said, the benefactor to the hospital actually mentioned that, like I said, it was running. So let's see if we can get it to do anything at all. Let's see what happens. Okay, well there it popped. Tell you what, let's trigger. Let's do our trigger lock there. What I did is I pulled the trigger and then I pushed this button right here. And then what that does is open the throttle just a little bit to give it a high idle. So let's see if we can get it to start up here. Okay, it tried to start there. You can see the recoil's a little messed up. We'll probably take that apart and check that out too. Okay, there it's trying. It's probably really rich where I dumped that gas in there. The stop switch works too. Well, it started right up, but I did see a problem here, and that's the exhaust is just completely loose. You can hear it clanking around in there. That's a problem we need to fix for sure before we can really diagnose a whole lot of other stuff. Because with the exhaust being loose like that, what's going on is the exhaust gases that are going out through the exhaust during that exhaust cycle, uh, you're pulling raw air back in. You're not just pulling exhaust, which uh, it could cause it to go a little lean, and that might be why it's idling a little high. I could sit there and play with the carburetor, but I'm going to tell you what, we've got to fix this exhaust first before we go tuning on the carburetor. Might need to rebuild the carburetor, but that's a whole lot easier than, uh, you know, taking this muffler off or tightening it up or whatever needs to happen. I don't know, the bolts might be missing, loose or whatever, but this recoil definitely needs some help too. So let's get back on the bench in here and see what it's going to take to get the exhaust fixed on here and look at the recoil too. It works, but I'd like for it to work a little bit better. So let's get back inside on the on trauma 1 and see what we can figure out. So back here on the operating table, we're going to go ahead and take off the side cover and the bar and chain. We don't need those on here. And I can see already that the chain needs definitely needs some help. It's dull, and the bar has got a massive burr right on the tip and a little bit of one here on the bar. So if we use this bar again, we're definitely going to need to do some work to it. Just going to use my ratchet scrunch here. There we go. I want it to be difficult to get off. Perfect. So we're going to need a tray. It looks like it's oiling okay too. I didn't really check that while we were outside, but we can definitely check that in the future. Let's get this out of the way. All right, this chain off of here. So yeah, maybe the clutch was engaging a little early. Maybe the springs are a little soft on it, but we'll see. That bearing feels pretty good too. All right, we got that side off, and you can see here that exhaust is just completely loose. So that's not helping things at all. So we'll go ahead and get this out of there. And oh, that spark plug is loose too. That is a problem also. that spark plug was just finger tight in there. Probably, maybe from the exhaust beating up against it. I'm not sure, but you can see there it's just finger tight. So I can turn that out of there. That's okay. We can fix that. Oh, and we're leaking gas everywhere. We might plug this. This is that tank vent I was looking at earlier. We might go ahead and make a little something up to plug that off. I've got a number, I think it's a 4 millimeter bolt or something, and a little scrap piece of fuel line. That's enough to keep it from drifting all over the place. So that's good. Let's go ahead and take this spark plug out while we're thinking about it and look at it. And it's a little oily, but I didn't heat it up, the engine at all. So well, it worked. I'll probably look and make sure that's the right spark plug. It's a 456. I'm not sure if that's right or not. It looks awful odd. But anyways, we'll check that out in a little bit. So what's next? We got to get this side cover off so we can see what's going on with that exhaust, that muffler. So let's see. It looks like this comes out here, and we might need to take off these two screws here, and we got one back here, one up here, and one up here. So I think those 5, 6 we will need to take off and out to get this side piece out. So let's try that out. We'll start with these two back here with this smaller screwdriver, and this is, I don't know, a 1/4 inch tipped screwdriver there. I'm not sure what it is, but that's what size it is. That fits right down in here, nice and long. Not one of those multi-bit screwdrivers. That wouldn't fit down inside of here. All right, we've got all these screws loosened up here. Let's see if we can get this thing off of here. Not super familiar with this model, but if it's like any of the other Stihls, it's sometimes can be a pain. It looks like that maybe this screw here is holding it in there. Take that one out too, I guess. Okay, yeah, that screw is out for sure. Let's see if that, oh yeah, that looks like that got it loosened up just right. Okay, oh, that is gross in there. Like I said, we probably will take a look at this recoil and see why it's not. I think this looks like it comes out of there. We'll clean that up too while we've got it all apart. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Maybe we'll do a deep cleaning on this saw. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Well, that's the problem. That could be why it wasn't running right, if it's pulling raw fuel in behind it there. And here's the little flywheel. That's nice. Well, let's go ahead and pull this muffler off and inspect since it's finger tight already anyways, and inspect the exhaust port and the piston and see if it's any scoring or weird stuff going on with that. So there's our piston. That looks to be in amazing shape. There is some carbon in there. It looks like I'll probably go ahead and position this piston to where it's closed, and then I'll flush that mess out of there, because I don't want any carbon down in the cylinder. So it looks like the rings are not seized. It started super easy, so I'm good with that. But let's see if we can clean up some of this gunk here. Alright, so I've just got a wooden popsicle stick here, and all I'm going to do is just try to chisel some of that stuff out of there, whatever's loose, because I do not want that breaking off inside of the engine there and causing issues. A lot of this could be the oil that was being used. Some of it is not getting the saw warmed up, using it for just small jobs and never actually getting it, good and hot. I'm not sure, but it looks like we've got a big chunk of it broken off there. I'm just going to use some brake parts cleaner and just flush it right out onto this rag. Yeah, that does a nice job. So I'm going to just move the cylinder down, the piston down a little bit in the cylinder, and then I'm going to try to scrape with it in this position, this lower part here, and pulling out while I'm scraping. Everything looks perfect on that piston, even that lower part there. I'm good with that. This thing looks in great shape, really, for, for what it is. Let's see if we got any more gunk in there we need to clean out. That's the last thing I want to do is score up a perfectly good cylinder. And yeah, I don't know if this has ever been done, but it's okay. We'll do it, clean it up, get it real good, flush it out. I just saw a little chunk in there. Figured I'd get that cleaned out. Let's just flush some across this piston and into the cylinder and let it run out of the exhaust plug port here, just to really make sure we don't have anything that's going to damage the piston. Wow, that thing really clears that exhaust port. Look how nice that cylinder is on the other side there. So we got that cleaned up, and now it looks like we definitely will need an exhaust gasket, and I can make one up out of some high temp fiber paper that I have that is rated for exhaust gasket, and I'll probably do that instead of ordering one. If it fails in the future, it's no big deal. This isn't going anywhere. This is a chainsaw hospital saw now. So if it was a customer saw, I would definitely take the time and get the OEM Stihl stuff. But I'll keep an eye on the exhaust on this one now that I know it's a problem, particularly on this saw. And I'll Loctite these screws in, these bolts in when I get in there and actually put the exhaust back on, the muffler back on. I guess there was a screen on here at some point that is missing now. So, but that's okay, I guess. So what I can do here with this is take this apart, make sure we don't have anything weird going on in there. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and scrape the heavy stuff off of this muffler, just so we don't have any risk of anything falling down into the cylinder. Since it's not bad, it just needs to be tweaked up there a little bit. Pretty heavy duty, it looks like. I mean, the whole thing, the casting, I've never seen a muffler like that, but that's really neat. You're kind of restricted right there to, that's as big as it's going to go. But it looks like it opens up, man. I bet it is going to be loud when you really get down on this thing. So that's how it goes on there. That little hole, I guess, holds the other side of the exhaust gasket, and that bolt holds it down, and then this bolt right here holds it down. So let's go ahead and cut a new gasket to go right here. All right, so I've got my piece of gasket material here, and I have used this in the past on exhausts and have not had any issue with it. But all I'm going to do is just lay it on here, and I'm going to use what I call the finger rub method. And you just rub your finger along where those edges are, and then that'll give you an idea of where you need the holes and where to cut things. There you go. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there you go right there. That gives you a perfect view of what needs to happen to get this thing right. So what I'll do is I'll come in here with this hole punch, and I'll punch this hole right in the middle of that hole that I did with my finger. Right there. And there you go. There's that nice. This is just a hole punch. You can pick these up. I'll put a link down below again for these hand tools and stuff I'm using. Then I've just got an X-Acto knife here. The outside dimensions are not critical, but the inside of this right here is. So wherever this hole lines up is where I need to cut this gasket out. And when I ran my finger around it, you can clearly see that's where I need to be. We've got a scrap piece of wood here. We'll just make ourselves a little room. And just take your time. You've got plenty of paper if you bought a bunch of paper like I did. So just take your time and go in there real slow and just work your way around that exhaust port and stopping to double check that you are in the right place, because you don't want to go too far with it. And like I said, it's no big deal. If you mess up, you just get you another piece of paper out. Might cost you a few minutes, which, spending time in the shop and doing this kind of stuff is relaxing for some people. Alright, so there you go. I've got it roughed in. Some of it's all the way through. So now I can just go back and just fine tune it real light. I'm not pushing very hard at all. This X-Acto knife is pretty sharp. So that looks like that's got it right there. Alright, so now we can double check the alignment. And it looks like we might be a little high. We just might need to take a little bit off right here. Like I said, you can see that knife just shaving that exhaust gasket right off of there. And that's got it right there. That's perfect. That's perfect. Alright. We can leave this little tab on here if we want, or we can cut it off. It really will not make any difference. So what I'll do is I'll just leave plenty and just cut that little extra bit off, just to have, plenty in there for it to set up against. Because if you look, I think this right here has a little tab, a little place for it to line up that gasket. So what I'll do is I'll lay it on there, and I'll just push down right where it needs to be. And see that there's a little hole right there, a little divot right there. What I'll do is I'll come in here with the hole punch again, and I'll give us a nice hole there. And what that'll do is that'll help line up the gasket with that hole. There you go. Perfect. See, we don't need to buy anything. We can just make do with what we have and keep these things on the road. Okay. Perfect. That lines up wonderfully. So what we'll do is get this prepared. I've got a little scraper blade here. I'm just going to lightly, very, very lightly, just come in here and clean this up a little bit. Try not to flush a bunch of stuff down into the cylinder. But if we do, we'll clean it out real quick. Okay. There. That looks pretty good. What I'll do is I'll put a little bit of this brake parts cleaner on this rag, soak that down, and I'll use this to wipe that surface off. Nice clean surface. And then we'll do that to here also. That's not too bad. All right. What's next? We need to install the gasket right here, like that. then we need to put the muffler in place. Like that. Oops. There, that's nice. That little tab holds that in place super easy. Alright, here's the cover I've got ready to go on. And that's just going to go right over the holes, right over that exhaust. And then this one here had a gasket, or I'm sorry, a washer. And this little tabbed lock washer. They must have known this was going to be a problem because somebody decided it was a good idea to go ahead and put this locking washer that you fold up. Looks like this one was folded up, but did not work well. So we'll fold it out and make sure we get a good bite on it when we go to tighten everything down. And the washer again on this one, I guess it goes on that side. I have half a mind to put it on the other side since it didn't work the way it was. But oh, you know what we forgot? We forgot Loctite. I don't know if this Loctite will work. If you know it won't work, just let me know down below. But I do want to try to keep these from rattling out again. But if it doesn't work, it'll still, it won't matter. I've still got that mechanical connection on there. These look to be 8mm or 5/16, and they are. So that's convenient. I have a 5/16 nut driver here to tighten that down. I'm going to get that close, and then what I'm going to do is leave it just a little loose. I'm going to go back with this one. I'm going to put a little Loctite on here. Thankfully, the threads it just backed out of didn't, mess up the threads on these bolts. And it feels like the threads in the cylinder are working fine too. So I'm good with that. Thankfully, we don't have to get a cylinder for this thing, or muffler, or bolts, or washers, or anything else that it might need. We're just tightening these up here. All right, that seems like it's wanting to cam out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just tap this stuff down a little bit out of the way, and I'll come in with the, there we go. Maybe I'll put a, yeah, that's got it for sure. I'm not going any tighter than that. But it didn't. It was, what it was doing was the screwdriver was, or the nut driver was actually coming off of those bolts. But that's on there now, and we have a gasket in place. So that is good. I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and fold these little tabs up. I don't know what the best way to do that is, but what I'll do is I'll start with these pliers. Okay. Yeah, something like that. And then maybe something like this. No. Got a bigger screwdriver here. Let's see if that, oh yeah. That seems like that really worked well. It still does not want to come up. So what I'm going to do is put the pliers on the back side of this bolt head, and then I'm going to squeeze. Oh yeah. That should keep them from backing out. It looks like this one here will do better if I put this against the flat of that bolt right there. Okay, so that should keep it from backing the bolt out now that they're good and tight. And so next up, we're just gonna we're just going to try to look at this recoil, and I might just put a little bit of oil down in there to see if that'll help the recoil retract a little bit better. Let's just do that for now. I'm going to take this thing all the way apart. So I just want to see if we can get it running right first. We'll tune on a little bit. What I'll do is I'll put a little bit of this cano oil, the coil. There we go. Still a little slow reacting there. Oh, yeah, I just felt it go in there. There it goes. Oh, that's a lot better. Much, much, much better. Okay. All right, well, I'm good to go with that. So let's get this thing back together and go back outside with it. So it looks like this went right here, like that. Make sure that's pushed down on there all the way. As finicky as this thing was coming apart, it would not surprise me if it is finicky going back together too. But let's see what happens now that we have that muffler tight. Let's see if it'll go down on there. Oh, well, there it goes. That went right back together, no problem at all. All right, let's go ahead and get a couple screws in here just to keep this from coming apart on us. And I tell you, I'm just going to use some Loctite on this too, just for safety, because I just don't want to look for a bunch of screws around in the grass over there if they do rattle out. I'm going to go back with all 6 of these screws and get this thing reassembled just like we took it apart, and see you in just a minute. All right, we got all the screws and nuts and bolts and things installed in here. The recoil is reinstalled, so that's great. I did do some research. It's a BPMR7A NGK is the spark plug, so that other one was not right. I'm not sure what it goes into. It looks like a lawnmower or something, but maybe it's just what somebody had around, I don't know. Maybe that's why it was loose. I don't know. But either way, let's go ahead and we'll put this new plug in and we'll go from there. I did this before I put the side cover on because I figured it would just be easier to see and get my fingers in there. Just running that down until it stops. There we go. All right, that should give it a good seal. We go ahead and plug this in there. Just like that. And we've got whatever this little ring is. I'm not sure. I guess it's to pull the wire off. But, okay. Sounds good to me. And it looks like there's a little relief there for the spark plug wire to go. This cylinder is actually pretty clean. I am surprised. What we're going to do now is we're going to put some of these tools away real quick. At least get them off the workbench. Clean up just a little bit. Nothing spectacular. And we're going to go ahead and put this bar and chain back on. Take it back outside. And see, that bar it needs some help. Oh, wow. Look how off those rails are. I don't know if you can see that. That is off the rails. So, slide the bar back in place. And let's get this chain on here. Make sure we get it on there right. The chain was actually not bad. It's not, I mean, it's not bad. It's dull, but it's not in bad shape. There's no broken cutters or missing pieces and parts on there. So we might be able to get away with reusing it. It's not in the, it's all it is one of those Oregon safety bumper type chains. So it's not the best to have, but it will work. Okay, it looks like that is, there we go, is in place. Doesn't look very well supported. I wonder if this chain is too long. See how the end of the bar is kind of just riding there? It doesn't matter for today, but for sure in the future, we might look into changing that out. But like I said, name of the game today is get this thing running and see what else we need in the future. I'm sure it'll need something else. And like I said, I'm thinking about taking this thing all the way down and really cleaning it up well. Alright, there we go. So let's see. That's good enough. Like I said, we're not going to cut any wood with it today. But that is back together enough. And we might go ahead and tension that up so as if it's right. That way we can kind of see if we can get the carburetor adjusted properly. But yeah, I would say this probably just needs a driver taken out of it or something. We might do that in the future together. That's pretty good. All right, so it looks like I'm just going to need a tuning screwdriver here. And let's go back outside now and see if we can get Sellick here running again. Or running, but running better than it was. Okay, back outside here where it's we've got plenty of fresh air. And I guess that's what it was. This little tab is to pull the spark plug off. Let me know in the comments if you know what that is. This little tab I'm talking about right here beside the trigger. But either way, so let's turn the stop switch to on, and that is this little guy right here. I slid it backwards to the run position. And let's see. Let's try the recoil out now. I might end up popping this vent here, or at least loosening that up a little bit so we don't, pull a vacuum on the tank. That little quick thing I put in there. In the future, what we'll do is we'll make a tank vent with a couple of grub screws, set screws, and a little fuel line, just like they do at the factory. But either way, let's pull this thing over and see if we can get it to start, and then we'll see if we can do some tuning on it. I don't know if you see that, but the chain isn't running like it was before. It started right up. Um, that's showing me that muffler, we didn't change carburetor settings at all. They are exactly the same. That's showing me that exhaust being open like that was letting raw fuel back into the exhaust side, leaning it out. So let's see if we can tune this thing roughly and get it close. Because again, we're gonna have to do some more cleaning. Air filter needs to go in here, but nonetheless, we can get it close. So let's see if we can start it back up. And the stop switch works too, which is great. So here we go. All right, I just ran the low screw all the way in, so I'm going to back it out the one turn it recommends. It says it right there on it. Let me make sure I got that right while I was talking. There we go. So that's one full turn out, and I'll go ahead and set the high jet too while I'm in here. So that's, let's see, that's one and one. There we go. So that's one turn out on the high, one turn out on the low. Might need a little bit more tuning from there, but let's see if it starts right up. Okay, looks like it needs a little bit more on the low jet, like I had it, and the high jet for that matter. I'll just turn them about a half a turn out more. That is close enough. Just spent a couple of minutes there. I might edit some of that tuning out. If you'd like a really good video on how to tune a carburetor, I'll put one right here for you. Be sure to check that out if you're wondering what I was doing with the carburetor. That video shows really in depth exactly what I was doing. Exact same setup, low, high screw, idle screw, everything. So that's a really good one to check out. So let's see if it starts back up. One pull, super easy. It seems like the recoil is working a lot better than it was. So let's see if we can get this thing to start up again. All right, it fell on its nose right there. That's telling me something. I'm just going to pop that screw off of there and make sure I'm not pulling a vacuum on that tank real quick. Let's just see. This is actually threading into that fuel line. It's a little big for what I need, but let's see if we can get this thing straightened out again. With it falling on its nose when I have it idling there, I'm just going to give it a little bit more high jet or low jet. Give it a little bit more fuel, lefty loosey that, and see if that does any better. That's idling pretty low, but the chain keeps running just a little bit. I'm not super worried about that. Again, if it was a customer saw, I'd be getting a new clutch. Now, might still get a new clutch or at least springs for it. The shoes look pretty good. And the drum looks good too. So, but either way, well, that's it for part one of Sellick, this Stihl 011 AV, electronic quick stop. So that'd be electronic ignition, quick stop, meaning it actually has a chain brake. Let's check the chain brake out and see if it actually works. We'll go ahead and start this thing back up again. It starts up easy. That's really nice. So here we go. I'm going to rev it up, and then I'm going to engage the chain brake. Chain brake is working somewhat. Not the best. The oiler is working. I did put some oil in here too, or I checked the oil, and it had oil in there. So yeah, that's working. Chain's still a little loose, but again, we're going to take it back off of there anyway. So, but yeah, that's it. So I'm really happy with this. This thing starts right up. It's already warmed up. It feels nice and, like it's warming up really well. Starting on one pull. The carburetor tuning is reacting every time I turn it. That's giving me a really good feeling that the bottom end is tight. It's got good compression. I don't have any air leaks, any weird stuff going on with the carburetor. It's very stable, and that's what I'm looking for. So this might be a really nice little handy saw to have, especially since it has that carrying case with it too. So that's really cool. So today what we're going to be doing is actually taking off this cover and trying to figure out why the trigger doesn't open the throttle all the way. It does. The throttle works. It's just this trigger. I think the cable in there has stretched or something. So let's get in here a little closer and we'll check that out. So we're going to start with taking off these 3 screws. I might need to take that one out too. I'm not sure. Uh, again, if you've watched part 1, you'll know I'm not super familiar with this particular model, but Stihl is really good about making them Eh, kind of consistent, and not really. This one's actually kind of different. It's old enough, I guess. It doesn't have T27s all over it, which is okay. I mean, you could use a standard screwdriver to pretty much take it down. And either way, we'll get this third screw out. We'll pull on it a little bit and see if this, yeah, evidently this one needs to come out too. And I don't know if this is original. All of them might have been that flathead at one point. This one got lost, fell out, and got replaced with this combination head. But nonetheless, let's pull that out of there. Let's hopefully nothing explodes in here. And it did not explode, so that's good. So there's your throttle return. There's your throttle. I don't really see anything in here that would, well, as an adjustment or anything like that. So I was hoping there would be some type of adjustment or something. Does not look like that's what's going to happen. At least on this side, I'll show you. Get this thing put back together and halfway held in place. When you pull the trigger, push down the trigger interlock here. Push that down. That releases the trigger to be able to be pulled. And you can see that just pulls that cable. But there's a lot of play in there. I wonder if I could, space this out this way a little bit, and then, oh yeah, that might be what I end up doing. Okay. I don't know if you can see that there when I was playing with it, but if I take all the parts out again and totally mess that up, but nonetheless, this is what was going on. So this was, when this is pulled, that's what actually moves your throttle. But if this conduit here was moved out further, you'd get you'd get the right amount of movement out of it. See that? So if it was back here, I'd get proper trigger motion. So I think that's what we're going to do. Not sure what we're going to do about it yet, but I think that's what we're going to do. It looks like that was chopped up, moved around, and a couple of the little strands of the cable are broken. All right, I'm going to dig around. I'm going to see if I can come up with a solution to get this spaced back that way a little bit so we get full trigger. So I made a few adjustments here. I put all this back together just the way it came apart. So if you wanted to see how all that went, that's how that goes. So let's put the cover on here and I'll show you what I did with the carburetor side of things. And honestly, it might not be the right repair, the correct repair or change. And if it's not, let me know what you think. It could be something that could be changed maybe in the future. Well, I know it could be changed in the future. And we might end up having to get a new throttle cable for this. And I might go ahead and get one on the way. But I did want to try to get this back together to where I could do some testing on it. And if my repair fails, it's okay. We can always get, well, not always, but we can get new parts for it for sure, or make new parts or something to get, back going again. Might need to get some new AV bushings for it too if we wanted to. All these seem pretty soft. Yeah, I think this was a replacement screw for what they had going on there, but it's back in there nonetheless. So what I did is I just took this brass Z bend and I just put a little bend in it to give it a little bit more pull. So you can see now with the carburetor at idle, it is at idle, and with it at full throttle, it's at full throttle. So it's got full range of motion. And again, I might just look for a replacement carburetor or a replacement throttle cable. But for now, that will work, and it is opening the throttle a little bit. Before wasn't even opening the throttle with the high idle trigger there, and the trigger interlock is working now, but before it wasn't returning the spring all the way to an idle position, kind of like that, just because everything was kind of in a bind. So it's okay. We got it together. It's working now. It's not the space shuttle. We're not doing anything crazy here. We're just cutting wood. So um, yeah. So either way, we got it working now a whole lot better. So that's great. So what's up next? We're gonna go ahead and pull this bar and chain off and see if we can get that tuned up a little bit. So we'll sharpen the chain. We'll leave this one on here. It's fine. And we'll take this bar off and see if we can get this fixed up. I'm going to go ahead and get this bar off of here so we can start getting the bar and chain fixed up so we can use them. Get that nut out of the way. We can get this side cover off. Pretty dirty in there. Might have to clean that out. That might be why that brake isn't exactly working the way it should. Get this bar off of here and the chain. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this part here, except for the air filter and all that, which we'll get that in a little bit. Okay, so we have a clean slate here to work on, slightly. So now that we have the bar off, we can actually inspect it and see how bad these rails are. And I'm just applying, you can see it kind of rocking one way or the other. And you can see, maybe you can see how far off that actually is. So these rails are way off. This thing would cut crazy crooked. It would probably not do well in the wood. And this one is okay. It's not the best I've seen, but okay. So this is going to need some major uh, reconstructive surgery here. So we'll start with just wiping off this gunk that's all over it. And we could just buy a new bar. That's absolutely true. We could. That would not be a bad thing either, to be honest. At the end of the day, if you decide to keep your old bar, this is what you're going to need to do to kind of get it back in action and back. Instead of spending that money, you could put it somewhere else that might be more useful. You can see right here. This is what happens. Okay, this is perfect. What I was using earlier was a chainsaw curette, and if you're interested in purchasing one, I sell these. I manufacture these and sell these. This is the curette for the 3/8 version. I'll probably have a 325 soon, and maybe a 404, or 404 and maybe a 325 soon. But if you're interested in these, just let me know. I can keep you posted on what that. And this is a raker gauge here, and this is to clean out the bar groove. So that would be for this little area right here. And you probably see how much gunk gets built up in there. There you go. So it's just piles and piles of stuff gets shoved down inside of that bar groove. And that's what the curette does. And you can use it again to check to see how far off your rails are from being square. And you can see these are not square because this curette is not riding, completely perpendicular to the side of this rail here. You can also use it to check to see if there's a burr, like that right there. And the reason I was saying that is if you look right up here, what happens is the burr will actually come off. You see that shiny spot right there at this point of the sprocket nose? That burr actually just broke off, and it broke off a piece of this bar itself, like the flat part. And that's not what you want, because when that starts happening, see this, it hasn't happened on this side, it's only rolled the burr over. So that's what happens when you don't take care of your bar and they start breaking. So either way, we're going to go through here, and what I'm going to do is scrape out all this junk that was probably on the bottom side, which is why it was full at some point in its life. The top side is what it's, or at least the cleaner side, we'll call it, is actually what's dirty, and the other side, the other part of the curette, is it scrapes off this bar here. But there's so much of a groove right here, it's going to leave a lot. See that groove? You can see the tool just stopping up against it, so that needs to be cleaned up. Just inspecting this, if we are going to reuse it, what all are we going to have to do to it? So, and the little hook here is nice for pushing all that dirt through the other side, and then going back through here one more time and just kind of cleaning it up. And this is something nice, the curette. You can carry it in your pocket with a file and a flat file, and that's, other than a bar wrench, pretty much all you're going to need kicking around in the woods there. You can touch up your chain, you can touch up your breakers, you can clean your bar groove out. And this little hole here is the right size for your file, your round file. I'll go ahead and wipe this down one more time, kind of just removing as much gunk as possible. And the reason for that is we're going to be using the Milwaukee M12 sander polisher, and that has this sanding disc on the end. And these are really nice for knocking all this stuff off. I'll show you real quick here. Let's go ahead and do that. There you go. In just a few seconds there, you can see we've got most of that burr off. There's one right there left. And I'm not taking it beyond just being flat with the bar. I'm just removing it enough to be gone. So what I'm going to do is go through the rest of the bar here and remove the burr that's right there. Once we have all these edges cleaned up like that, looking really nice too, we've got to get this straightened out here. This how far off that is right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through here and just beat down this left hand rail with the sander polisher a lot. That's a perfect spot to stop. You can kind of see I've really hit this rail a lot, and I'm not taking off a whole lot of metal, but you can see a couple places where I haven't even touched this right hand rail, and I'm trying to keep the tool completely vertical there, right up above everything. So I'm going to keep working on this, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so let's check that out now. Let's see if it's gotten any better. This is the side we've been working on. You can see how shiny it is compared to this side here. So that's the side we've been working on, and here we go. We're just going to lay this on here, and it looks like to me we've got some significant progress. We have. It's a little high still, just by kind of feel. Yeah, and I'm eyeballing down just like you guys are here, that it's still a little high over here. It's like that. So I'm gonna keep working on this right hand rail here. We might flip it over this way this time just to get an even grind on it and see if we can get this thing squared up. We have successfully squared up these bar rails. Still a little high. Looks like we've got this area pretty good right in here, but down here at this end, it's still pretty high on this side right here. That got it. Okay. Nice and square all the way down. All right, so let's work on this side a little bit. It looks like we've got the same thing kind of going on, but opposite. We've got this right hand rail now from our view now is is a little high. So that's okay. We're just gonna grind it down like we did the other ones. We got done with the bar, looking good. I'm really happy with that. That turned out nice. I think we can use that. We'll clean up this bar tip too. We'll maybe spray some gunk down in there, some brake parts cleaner, and then we'll go ahead and grease this nose up. But yeah, the bar is good. We need to address the chain now. So what are we going to do with the chain? Are we just going to replace it, put a different one on there? This looks like 3/8 low profile. I have other chains. This is a super duper safety raker chain. You can see the safety rakers all up on there. And I'm really not a super fan of these. These cut really slow, to be honest, just from my experience. So I might put this on the shelf, and I have some other not as safety chains. They might have a little bit of a bump in front of the cutter, but nothing like this. So let's dig around and see what we can find to replace this chain. And if not, we'll go ahead and just sharpen this one up and get it ready to go. I did some quick digging around, and I do not have a 55 driver chain that has less safety rakers and safety bumps and all this stuff like this one has. So this is a 56 driver, and I don't know if you guys remember uh, the chain, the bar looked like it was stretched way out in the on the machine. So I think it needs a 55 driver instead of 56. I'm going to look into that a little bit more, but if anything, we'll have to uh, punch out and remake a chain, and maybe I'll make a video on how to do that. We can break and mend chain here in the chainsaw hospital too. So um, yeah, so let's go ahead and we'll put this on the grinder, and we'll go ahead and sharpen it up now, because some of these teeth are pretty smashed up. Not terrible, but you can see quite a bit of wear on that cutter tooth right there. But that's okay. See if I can get it in frame for you. There we go. So yeah, it's a little rounded over, and it's just nice to be able to put it in there and get all these cutters straight again. Well, at the proper angle too. So we're going to be using the Oregon Model 520 120 grinder, and there's the little nameplate there. And be sure to check out the links below if you're interested in this grinder. But nonetheless, there's the nameplate, and here's the angles we're going to be using. So there's 55 there, 25 there, and no no down angle or anything like that. So yeah, so I've got it all set up here, and I've made a few quick little test grinds, and you can already feel that one's nice and sharp, and this one's nice and sharp here. So I like to start over here. In fact, I wrote start right here, and that's because when I flip it over to this side here for the left hand cutters, it ends up being a little bit longer in the grind. It doesn't line up exactly, and I'm only talking, maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 thousandths or something like that. So all I do is just advance this a little bit to compensate for that, and then I measure these two teeth. Once I get this one's already ground. Once I do one of these on the left hand side, what I like to do is check it with a micrometer of some sorts, um, dial caliper or something, something to measure them with. And so here we go. We're gonna go ahead and just grind a few of these. I'm not gonna bore you with the whole grinding experience, but it is a lot of fun. And this is a nice way to get rid of a lot of that completely just smashed corner right there instead of hand filing it all the way down. And then I'll just hand file after I get them all kind of at the right angles and everything. All the right hand cutters are done. I've flipped over to the left hand cutters now, and you can see I've put it on 25 degrees again. And all I had to do is just advance this knob maybe a turn, maybe. And that got it to the same length. I just used, a measuring device of some sort and got it that way. So I'm going to go through here and sharpen these left hand cutters now. Got everything set up to do the rakers now. So I've got all the teeth sharpened to the same length, and now we're gonna get these rakers knocked back. I've got the angle set to 0 here, and I've got this set to about 85, something like that. Somewhere in there. That's not super critical on that. I like it a little progressive, not just a square. But if you like it square, that's cool. If you like it a little angled, that's cool too. Whatever you're into. So what I did was I checked the raker height by placing this gauge on top, and then I used a 25 thousandths feeler gauge in there right underneath it here, and you can see how close it is to it. So it was not 25 thousandths. So what I'm going to do here is just run this square grinding wheel down. See how square this is? And what I'll do is I'll run it down right onto here and knock it back a little bit. So what I'm going to have to do is actually move this back a little bit to stop, quite a bit actually, um, because the chain, the raker, it needs to come in contact, and you can still see I went too far. So these little low profile chains, they aren't nearly as big as those full size 3/8, but yeah, that's pretty close there. We'll probably do that. So let me do that, and we'll knock it back a little bit, and we'll check on it. What I'm going to start doing is adjusting this depth knob until it starts touching the raker. So when I do that, then I'll know how much I need to take off. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to start lowering the grinder onto it. It's not touching it yet. I did have to screw it in quite a bit when I first started. So then I'm going to back it back out a little bit. Right there. See how I touched it just a little bit, and you can see the sparks coming off of it? Now I take my gauge here and I try to slide it in there, and it's just barely not enough. So I just need to unscrew that depth screw a little bit more, hold it down on there, then I'm just gonna turn it out just a little bit, maybe an 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn, maybe, probably not even that much. And then I slide this in there, and it's still not enough. It's still hitting. So it needs to come down a little bit more. Same thing. Just like that. And that's barely dragging. I'm probably going to take it down just a little bit more. These are really small movements I'm making here. Yeah, and there goes the gauge. It slides in there. So that's perfect. All right, so I'm going to go around now, and I can do left and right teeth, alternatively, just like this. These right teeth get a little chattery, so just feed it in there slow, and then you can slide the gauge in, and that's perfect. It's dragging a little bit top and bottom when I insert it, so that's exactly what I'm looking for. Got the rakers all knocked back, and they look great. They look like they were knocked back a lot because they were never touched, and you can see how short the tooth is compared to what it used to be. So that turned out really nice. This chain will be, so it's just a little gunk built there. I thought it was a burr right there, but it was just a little gunk on there. So yeah, we're ready to put this chain back on that bar we fixed up and put everything back on the power head and see if we can get it in the wood somewhere. Try it out. We've got our new chain here, or our sharpened chain, not new, and we've got our little 011 AV here. So let's see if we can get this bar on here. This is the one we cleaned up really good. It looks like that's going to fit on there just fine. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I went ahead and turned this in quite a bit by loosening, lefty loosey, and that moved this bar adjuster stud in toward the body of the saw more. The reason I did that because I knew, because I went ahead and took a link out of the chain, and figured this video was long enough. But there's the new link I put in, so I made it 55 drivers instead of 56. And I think that's going to make a difference in getting the tail of the bar into the right place. We can start with putting the chain on there, slide this bar in place. Then we can, I'm just doing this like this so you guys can see. Usually I do it on its side, but it's nice to be able to see what I'm doing. So now I'm just going to flop the chain into that top bar groove, and when you pull it tight, it should lay just like that. So you can see now that the tail of the bar is much more supported now that I took that one driver out, and that'll be really nice. And it looks like the chain will have plenty of tension, once we tighten it up there a little bit. Let's see if we can move this on camera for you guys. Not really. Oh yeah, a little bit. Here we go. So you can see the tensioner moving. There we go. There you go. So that's what it will look like there. And like I said, that's supported much better. And looks like this is a little bit closer to the sprocket. And what that'll give you is less chance of a chain flying off because a branch got stuck behind there. So that's kind of a good thing too. So you don't throw a bunch of chains all the time. So that is excellent there. That's good. And now we've got this brake here. We're just going to clean some of this gunk out of here real quick, just to kind of dull it up a little bit. I'm not super worried about the brake, like I said. That's just what it is. I just want to get it in the get it on back on there, get it back on the saw there, and we'll play with maybe getting the brake fixed later. So we're going to make sure this little brake metal piece gets into the plastic brake handle, and then we can put this bar nut back on. This looks like a custom, maybe a custom one. I think the factory one was like a 13 millimeter, but probably somebody wanted a 3/4 or 19 millimeter nut, so they ended up maybe drilling and tapping that one, and maybe it was factory like that. I'm not sure, but That's okay, we got that. And our chain tension is just a little loose, so we're just gonna give it just a little turn right there. And now it's just barely touching that bar. That might even be a little too much. Back it off just a little bit. Nope, that's right where it wanted to be. Okay, right there. And that's where that chain, the bottom of this chain, when I was tightening it, it just barely touched the bottom of the bar when I was tightening it. That's right where I like to run them. And then we need to tighten up bar, the bar nut. It's just a single one, so we'll just tighten that one. And then check to make sure it will move. And then it's tight in there. Whew. There it goes. Let's check underneath it here. Make sure I'm not doing something wrong or no. Just tight somewhere. But it's feeling a lot better already. It is dry. I haven't ran any oil through there. But maybe it'll break in. We'll check it after we run it some and see. But that is pretty tight. In fact, that's really tight right there. Maybe I didn't quite have it in the right place. So what I'll do is I'll take some of that tension out of there. Yeah, that's really tight. Well, it might be one of those when you tighten it up, it tightens the chain up for you too. Yeah, see, that's nice and loose now. Okay. Yeah, something weird was going on with that. Just a little bit more. There. Let's see if we can get it now. Sometimes if you don't have the side cover tightened down all the way, there you go. Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, it's a good thing to check it like that with a screwdriver. You know, make sure the chain runs pretty good. And it did not at first. So I think what happened was I had it tensioned with the side cover kind of crooked a little bit, a little off. And then when it tightened it up a whole lot. So like I said, it's always good to check. It should run like that. So there we go. All right, well, that's all back together. And before we go do anything crazy, we are going to get this air filter cover and air filter installed. So we'll wait to do that. But I did want to cover one thing. I made a tank vent here for this saw, and all that is a piece of fuel line and two set screws back to back inside of there, and that's all you need. That allows air in. You can test it with a vacuum tester, and then but it doesn't allow the fuel out. So that's a really nice, easy, cheap way to make your own tank vent like that. Got our air filter cover in and the air filter. You can see the tank vent is working perfectly. We're not leaking any fuel out. So that's great. I did have to reroute this fuel line to go between the carburetor and the body. But there's plenty of room to wrap it around there. And what that did was it allowed me to set the air filter on there and for it to set flat into its little recess area. And then the cover here that has the choke built in, so when you slide it over, see how it pushes down on that? That's how that works. That's how it chokes the carburetor. And so you just slip it in. These little ears right here, they go in underneath of this metal top part right here. There's two little notches here that these teeth go into. So make sure those go into there. And once you have them in there, you can go ahead and tighten the screw down. This is just a flathead. All right, so once we got the cover on there, we're going to go outside with this 011 AV, and we're going to go try to start it up and see if this choke works. All right, well, we're outside. I've got Sellick here, and what we're going to do is try to get this thing started up and actually run it a little bit with this air filter on here. It might need a little tweaking on the carburetor. It might not. I don't know. But either way, let's go ahead and turn the run switch or the stop switch to run, and that's pushing it down like that. And then we're going to go ahead and set the throttle lock because it's a little cool out, and I think that'd be good. And then we're going to flip this is our new choke lever here that's on our cover we just put on. So we're going to flip that over to the choke position. So it's about, I don't know, 30 degrees or something this morning. So let's see how many pulls it takes to get this thing started up. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay. There we go. Only took 3 pulls. That's awesome. Yeah, this actually feels pretty, pretty handy. I don't know how much power it has yet. I've heard they're pretty decent little saws, but we'll see. Well, let's see if it'll restart after we, got it going there and then shut it right off. It's still a little cold, but let's see if it'll start up on one pull. I'm good with that. We're going to actually be running this Stihl 011 AV, and that's kind of exciting because this is the first time I have ever had this saw in the wood, making cuts and stuff and trying it out, So this is cool because we just went through this, and we had gotten this thing going, and that's kind of neat. So let's get in here. I'm going to start just cutting some small pieces off of this and getting getting a feel for it. I brought my screwdrivers with me just in case we had to do some tuning. So let's go ahead and get some cuts in here and see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started up. I've got the run switch, the stop switch in the run position, and the choke, we're going to turn that on. I had it going today, so it shouldn't take much to get it going. I didn't think I made that chain too aggressive, but that's what it kind of feels like. Feels like it might be a little rich. I'm going to go ahead and lean that out a little bit. I've got my screwdriver right here. So I've got the high jet is this upper hole here. So I'm just going to turn this in just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of a turn or so. So let's see if we can get this thing fired back up. I'll go ahead and set the trigger lock. Let's try this again. Okay, I'm kind of noticing the chain here is kind of dragging a little bit. So I don't think the oiler is quite putting out, or the oiler itself is clogged up. The oil hole might have already gotten clogged up. I don't know. But nonetheless, I'll see if I can run it a little bit and maybe get it to kind of clear out. It's, you know, again, this is the first time we've ever used it, so it might not, it's not perfect. Yeah, I'm going to call that good for now. Not perfect. I think we just got a little smoke kind of burning off of some of that stuff because this hasn't ran for a long time. But yeah, it cuts. It's just we're gonna probably try to figure out that oiler and find out why it's not exactly working right. But it did cut. It does run. It seems like as soon as I dog it in, I don't think I got those rakers too low. I could have, but we can, we can work around that. I have different chains I can put on here. It's not a big deal. But either way, it runs. So remember, keep your chain sharp and stay safe.